About a month ago, the curious boy Himuro Keiji was reading a new manga with a passion. Another fascinating story completely immersed the young boy's mind. But suddenly, there was a knock on the door and Keiji thought that a package from his favorite dad had finally arrived. Putting aside the manga, Keiji hurried to the door to receive the gift. After the doors opened, the unbelievable happened. Behind the thin wooden front door was not a courier with a package at all, but a whole new world. Keiji froze in surprise and decided that maybe he was just dreaming. But it was obvious that this is not a dream, and Keiji tried to understand how this could happen, because he just wanted to pick up the package that his father sent. He even thought that maybe it was his destiny to be in another world and become a real hero. But even if that was the case, it was unclear where the package from his father had gone. Deciding to take a little walk, Keiji very soon met the first creature in the new world. The strange bird with a stern look was not at all frightened by the young man's approach. Keiji was glad to meet it and introduced himself to the animal. But in the next instant, the strange bird tried to attack and crush the young lad. Only by pure chance did the strange feathered creature miss its target and then hurried away. Such harsh hospitality of the new world did not please Keiji at all, for he did not even realize that the bird would immediately try to crush him. Keiji remembered that at times like this, his combat skills were supposed to be strong. And in the battle itself, they should have automatically activated. After all, since he had gotten into a fantasy world, he was bound to have some cheater abilities. It remained to check everything in action, and Keiji prepared to meet another attack of an aggressive bird, while the guy tried to call up his skill or at least a status window. But to Kenji's dismay, nothing happened of what could help him in this situation. The feathery creature's strongest punch threw Keiji aside, and it was 100% defeat. After this horrible event, Keiji decided that he was just as weak as ordinary people and had absolutely no magic skills. The beating by the horrible bird caused incredible suffering to the guy, and Keiji struggled to reach the city. In the rather large settlement, Keiji noticed the different type of locals. It was noticeable that everyone differed in their professions, and it was indeed a world filled with magic. Keiji hoped that his abilities would be activated if he joined the local adventurers guild. Overcoming the pain in his body, Keiji quickly found the right place and found himself in the spacious room of the adventurers guild. The pretty receptionist girl asked if Keiji wanted to join the guild and had already prepared an application form. But the jaded guy asked if he could first look at his statuses and then decide about joining the guild. But this service was not free, and the admin girl asked for 1,000 gold coins for using the magic ball to view his skills. Of course, the guest from the real world didn't have any gold coins with him, and Keiji honestly admitted it. In response, the guy received the same honest answer from the receptionist girl, who denied the free use of the magic ball. Once outside, Keiji was incredibly disappointed at such a failure, as he barely made it to the Adventurers Guild due to the pain in his body. Keiji pondered on how he should proceed, for he was very hungry. It would be a good idea to go to a local restaurant and talk. Keiji figured that surely when they saw his pitiful appearance, they would take pity and feed him for free, and if he was lucky, he might even get a job. After calming down a bit, Keiji felt encouraged and decided that now his new story was starting for real. But unfortunately, a special beginning didn't happen. Keiji was chased out of the local restaurant and was completely unwilling to help him. The guy was incredibly upset because he thought that after getting into the other world, something incredible would happen. But now he was just starving. He was weak and had no skills. At the same time, he didn't have any money, acquaintances, or helpers in the form of beautiful ladies with him, so he had to urgently do something. Keiji noticed the restaurant owner taking out a bucket of leftovers, and incredible hunger prompted Kenji's next action. The greedy restaurant owner simply dumped the leftovers into a trash barrel, and Keiji waited for him to leave and, overcoming his squeamishness, decided to find some food among the pile of garbage. The strong sense of hunger made even half-rotten scraps taste better. Keiji felt satiated and relieved. The boy forgot about his pride and decided that now was the time to survive. Though it was frustrating at the thought of having to constantly scavenge through trash cans to find sustenance, Keiji hoped that this new world should still be better than the previous one. While searching for food among the trash, Kenji found a strange seed from some plant and decided that it was obviously not tasty and should just be thrown away. But then the visitor from the other world had an idea. Kenji realized that if he had no money for food, then hunting monsters was his only source of income. But he needed to think more globally, because all he needed to do in this situation was to create food for himself. Kenji liked the idea, especially since it suited his lifestyle. As Kenji explored the surrounding area, he soon discovered a monster-free plain far away from the city, where an abandoned house was located. There was new hope for development in this magical world, and Kenji decided to take up farming so that he would not have to depend on anyone. The next day, at first light, Kenji was surprised to find that the seeds he had planted had already sprouted, and all he had to do was wait to see what would eventually grow. Kenji was encouraged by the ability of the plants of this world to grow so quickly. After all, if he succeeded with farming, he would be able to get back on his feet in just a week. All that remained was to carefully tend and water his vegetable garden on time. But unfortunately, there were difficulties at every turn, and even the town guard kept forbidding him to draw water from the fountain. Kenji still managed to get water and carefully watered his plants. After 2 days, the plants in the vegetable garden had grown quite large, and Kenji continued to annoy the city guard by stealing water from the fountain. During his visit to the city, Kenji was also able to procure a dirty discarded hope, which he is sure to need. After another day, Kenji was looking forward to seeing his plants. For the evening, they were already up to his waist. But what he saw in the vegetable garden shocked the young farmer. All his plants looked like real monsters, and everything looked like a hallucination. But alas, everything was real, and the plants attacked their master. Kenji found himself in the deadly embrace of the ravenous plants, but suddenly salvation came in the form of a girl with a shining sword. The girl quickly chopped the plants with her sharp blade and saved the hapless farmer. Not realizing the full danger of what had happened, Kenji resented the destruction of the grown plants. But the warrior girl called the farmer a cretin and asked why he had done such a thing in the first place. The girl accused the farmer of growing predatory plants, but Kenji explained that he didn't know that at all. The guy was trying to figure out how this warrior girl was even around and noticed that unlike the unattractive violent heroines, this lady was quite attractive. Kenji responded to the aggression by admitting that he doesn't meet cute girls very often and admired the beauty of the stranger. The girl warrior instantly blushed with embarrassment and loosened her grip. Eventually, the girl explained that her own brother, the Guardian, asked her to do something about the guy who was constantly stealing water from the city fountain and growing something strange outside the city. The lovely lady explained the dangers of growing such monster plants and asked her to categorically not do it within the city limits. Kenji realized that the girl was indeed right, but it was also clear that if he left the city, he would starve to death. Kenji apologized for his ignorance, and the Guardian's sister explained that farming was not the same as raising monsters. The boy explained that he had merely mistaken monster seeds for seeds of regular fruit, and that's why it happened. To Kenji's surprise, the warrior girl inquired what fruit even was, and if it was some unknown monster. Kenji had no idea how to explain to him what every child in his homeworld knew. Apparently this world only had monster seeds, and the local people were completely ignorant of the process of growing food. The girl confirmed Kenji's assumptions and stated that there were no other seeds. This caused the young farmer shock and grief, for all his labors in the vegetable garden were wasted. After the Guardian's sister attacked, not only the main monsters died, but also all the plants that were only harmless offshoots. The girl explained that everything was interconnected and the death of a monster caused the plant to wither. Kenji asked if it was even possible to grow plants properly so as not to break the local rules. The girl was surprised that Kenji had planted such dangerous seeds on purpose. But the distressed farmer realized that he had made a mistake by growing the monsters in the usual way, although he had not expected that such a thing was even possible. Kenji inquired how the people here even harvest the dangerous plants. The girl explained that the people offer quests to adventurers. And while the monsters are alive, all the products harvested from them are edible, and that's why they are so expensive. The great value of the products immediately interested Kenji, because it gave hope for the development of... At that, The lady warrior reported a rather poor harvest, which had been particularly poor lately. The girl then asked not to be called knight or warrior anymore and introduced herself as Lily. Also, from the words of the beautiful Lily, special monster cultivation was very rare in this world. Lily explained that such predatory plants grow on their own, and no one had ever managed to grow them artificially before. At least personally, it was the first time she had ever met someone who had succeeded. The young farmer was inspired by this recognition, and Kenji suggested that the girl grow monsters together. Kenji asked Lily for permission to grow monsters on the property and promised to give a significant portion of the harvest to her. The farmer explained that it was a very good deal and they would both benefit. Lily thought about the tempting offer, and Kenji promised that everything would be fine and he would keep a close eye on the monsters. The young farmer then asked the girl to lend him money to buy farming tools. Lily decided that if she showed Kenji a place from where she could safely draw water, then everything should be alright. After all, so far the farmer hadn't done anything that would cause him to have to be banished. Kenji was pleased with Lily's agreement and was already anticipating the profits. But then the warrior girl demanded 50% of the crop for her cooperation and was clearly not going to give in. Kenji realized that he was in no position to bargain, and without a second thought agreed to Lily's terms. After the agreement was made, Lily took Kenji with her to hunt wolves. The young farmer was surprised at such an outing and asked what raising monsters had to do with fighting in the forest at all. Lily explained that its killer wolves are certainly not fruits, but they are also monsters and can be planted. With lightning attacks, Lily quickly destroyed the entire pack of ferocious wolves, and now all that was left was to pick up the necessary materials. The girl suggested the farmer to extract the meat from the wolves as soon as possible, and then explained that there were seeds inside the wolves that adventurers usually collected during quests. Kenji was surprised, for he had never seen anything like this in his homeworld. Lily offered the farmer to take the seeds, but Kenji was squeamish about the offer, as it was not pleasant to take something bloody in his hands. The girl explained that now was not the time to act like a frightened girl and stated that Kenji should plant those wolf seeds. The young farmer agreed to use the strange seeds and asked what they were called. Lily called these seeds Jack's lamp and explained that what Kenji grew was a killer plant. Such a plant is very ferocious and it attacks people and is too aggressive. But that's not the case with Jack's lamp. These plants don't attack if you don't do anything to them. And if they've done everything right, all that's left to do is wait for those seeds to germinate and mature. The beautiful warrior girl still wasn't sure of Kenji's abilities and inquired about the magic he used to grow monster plants. The young farmer didn't make anything up and answered, as it was in fact, that he simply buries the seeds in the ground and waters them thoroughly. The result of Kenji's labors was not long in coming, and in a few days, with careful care, the germinated plants had already produced their first fruits. All this was indeed a resounding success. Young Lily was amazed at the result and happily looked at the impressive fruits. Kenji realized at that moment how low the farming standards of this world were, and so he had something to surprise the locals. A delighted Lily asked Kenji to take the fruit and follow her into town. The girl was clearly up to something, but the farmer did not demand details and decided to trust his partner. Once in town, Lily led Kenji to an ordinary building and introduced him to a girl named Mina. Lily immediately explained that her friend could grow a monster plant, and this surprised Mina very much. The excited girl was sure that such monster plants couldn't be grown in artificial conditions, but Kenji and Lily showed beautiful fruits and proved otherwise. Mina was delighted and confessed that she had never been able to grow anything like this. While Mina looked at the fruit with interest, Lily explained to the young farmer that her friend was not doing well lately. And the higher the price for the monster fruits, the fewer opportunities for Mina to develop, so it would be a good idea to help her. Lily said that they were willing to sell the collected fruits to Mina at her price, and this made the young hostess very happy. Lily was happy to help her friend and said that the price was not important in this case, and the main thing was that Mina could cook something tasty. In the end, Lily thanked her unique partner Kenji for agreeing to sell the fruit to Mina below market value. The young farmer didn't mind helping out himself, especially since he was really impressed with Mina's culinary skills and had a wonderful lunch. The fruits of Jack's luminary cooked with the killer plant pleased the taste buds of Kenji, who was eating something wonderful for the first time in this magical world. Lily confessed that Mina is the best cook she knows, but alas, she is not too popular. In all of this, Kenji saw a good prospect for himself, for with his cultivation abilities, there was hope for a normal life. All that remained was to become the best farmer in this world. Lily stated that Kenji keeps saying strange things that she doesn't quite understand. Back at the farm, Kenji heard a strange voice. It turned out to be a reanimated pumpkin speaking, thanking the farmer for growing it. The living monster resembled a scene from a Halloween horror movie, and Kenji was surprised to see such a thing. After returning to the farm, Kenji and Lily, and with them a reanimated pumpkin named Jack, went on a hunt. The target of the hunt were the crawling monsters of Kaikuramachi, capable of producing valuable silk. Kenji was delighted by the sight of the strange creatures and expressed his emotions loudly. But Lily immediately hinted to her partner with a powerful punch about the need to be quieter. The agitated Lily explained that Kaikuramachi are very fearful creatures, and if they see a human, they will immediately run away into the forest. And even if they are caught, they will still tend to run away. Therefore, if one is not an expert hunter, one will not be able to catch such monsters. Kenji admitted that he didn't expect such difficulties related to hunting Kaikuramachi at all. Lily stated that it was too confident for Kenji to say that clothes were needed and so presumptuous to run into the forest to hunt. The young farmer attributed his desire to get cloth for clothing to the high value of such a commodity and the opportunity to make a quick buck. But Lily reminded him that catching monsters to make clothes was also time-consuming. Kenji asked Jack why he had traveled with them. The talking pumpkin reminded that Lily and Kenji were his parents, and so he should follow and protect them. The hunting process took a very long time indeed, and the team watched the monsters. The young farmer was not known for his patience, and Lily kept asking him to be quiet, because all that was left was to wait for the egg to hatch. Soon the long-awaited moment arrived, and from the shattered eggshell emerged a baby Kaikuramachi. Kenji tried to scream with delight, but Lily's strong hands closed the overly emotional farmer's mouth in time. While the boy and girl were distracted, Jack kept watching and warned of the approach of someone very dangerous. Lily excitedly exclaimed that it was a hell eagle from the underworld. The huge bird swiftly attacked the Kaikuramachi group and completely ruined the hunters' plans. Everything that was happening was terrifying. The hell eagle was trying to catch the crawling monsters that were perfect for it as sustenance. In all this commotion, what was surprising was the agility of the Kaikuramachi. These crawling creatures moved with great speed, even though they had no legs. But mostly Kenji and Lily were watching the newly arrived baby. Kenji couldn't stand it and rushed to save the little Kaikuramachi. The farmer made it in time and plucked the baby literally from the beak of the hell eagle. Lily was delighted by her partner's courage, but realized that Kenji was now in mortal danger. Lily rushed to her partner's aid, pulling out a sharp blade. Jack kept up with the brave girl and shouted to his creator for Kenji to run away from the eagle as soon as possible. Lily and Jack's joint attack was very effective, and they were able to quickly destroy the hell eagle and save Kenji. The outraged lady warrior warned Kenji to never do that again and had to wait for her to go first. Lily then inquired if the little monster was all right. But the little Kaikuramachi was perfectly healthy and began to rapidly produce silk in gratitude to his savior. Lily was delighted at what was happening and decided that if the baby monster was unwell, it would not produce silk. In a few minutes, Kenji was almost completely covered in high-quality silk, and it was truly a display of the Kaikuramachi baby's sincere gratitude. Jack explained that since the Kaikuramachi was so actively producing silk, it meant that he liked Kenji. This was good news, because if Jack said that, then it must really be true. Kenji declared that from now on, he would call the little baby just Machai and promised to always take care of him. The young farmer asked the crawling baby to produce as much silk as he could in gratitude for the rescue. After all of it would create lots of clothes. Lily couldn't understand how Kenji combined gratuitous courage and real greed. It was amazing to see Kenji not only masterfully cultivate monsters, but also easily win their hearts. Lily asked if Kenji had such a talent for winning the hearts of monsters. The farmer replied that perhaps he does. Kenji noticed that the egg from which the little Machai hatched had fallen from a tree. Lily explained that it was only natural, for it had grown on that tree. All of this was difficult for Kenji, who had never seen anything like this in his home world. It was unusual to realize that monster plants grew from trees. And did all monster plants then appear in a similar manner? Kenji asked how such a thing was even possible. Lily explained that Jack and the killer wolves are monsters from the world of flora. Many fruits also turn into monster plants, but there are also others that belong to the fauna world. Animal monster plants from the flora, such as killer wolves and dragons, possess their own trees. At the beginning of life, the fruit matures, then it falls and a baby monster hatches from it. With that said, most fish are born from coral, and the process is very beautiful. There are also danger levels of monsters from F to SS, for example, Jack is ranked E. These danger levels are a determining factor for people to understand the strength of monsters. This system of determining strength was very familiar to Kenji from popular games in his real world. The boy inquired about how strong the SS level was. Lily explained that they were very strong monsters and humans were no match for them at all. Lily then sadly stated that the main opponents for her in this world are heroes. Kenji was not very surprised at the existence of heroes in this world and asked when Machai would begin to bear fruit. But Lily honestly replied that she didn't know that for sure. Kenji wanted to find out a lot of things, and for starters he asked if a monster plant could spawn a monster of another species. Lily explained that this was impossible and a plant could only spawn a member of its own species. The girl suspected Kenji of thinking up something strange and asked what he was going to do. Kenji stated that he was going to take the egg to his home, since their meeting here was fate. And instead of leaving it here in danger, it would be better to raise the egg at home. Lily was not in favor of such an idea, stating that they don't even know whose egg it really is. And if it turned out to be some dangerous species, they would all die from Kenji's negligence. But the young farmer didn't listen to Lily's warnings and hurried home with Jack. In the end, Lily resigned herself to the fact that she would not be able to change her partner's mind. Therefore, she immediately warned that only Kenji would be responsible for the possible consequences. The guy did not think about the danger and agreed to such conditions. Text once at home, little Machai produced a huge amount of high-quality silk, which caused Kenji to be really delighted. It turned out that even beds could be made from Kaikoramachi silk, not to mention high-quality clothing. So it looked like a great idea to start selling silk as soon as possible. Lily was also excited about such a day. After all, she had never even considered before that it was possible to sell Machai silk and earn money for various useful things. Overjoyed at her first serious success, Kenji confessed that he wanted to get a mandrake seed to try to grow it. But the beautiful partner replied that it was a bad idea and she didn't recommend it. Lily explained that the mandrake can kill everyone around it with its scream the moment it is taken out of the ground. Therefore, it is too dangerous to engage in growing such a monster. Although mandrake seeds are hundreds of times cheaper than jack or fireweed seeds. Lily advised her companion to concentrate his energies on making money with Machai and could start by simply renovating his house. But Kenji stated that he wanted to do more of that and not stop his development. The young farmer continued to grow any new seeds he found and tried to get something useful and valuable. The result of one of these studies was the appearance of a plant in the form of a little girl. The young creature, in an excited voice, immediately promised to do anything to avoid being killed. Kenji was incredibly surprised and couldn't understand how there could even be a plant that looked like a human, and who could turn a cute elf girl into something so disgusting. Lily explained that such creatures are harmless, but many adventurers kill them as soon as they extract them from the ground. Therefore, these monsters are very much feared by humans. Kenji realized that this plant was useless, because if you don't kill such a monster, you won't be able to cook it. That was the case. But Lily explained that in general these creatures are very tasty, and the only thing that is not edible is the heads. So usually they are cut off and only then cook the rest of the monster. So instead of cooking the small creatures raw, a much more brutal method is used. Kenji watched the little girl carefully and was horrified to see how this was all happening. Kenji asked the little girl not to worry and promised not to kill her. But the young creature was suspicious of the farmer's words and asked if he was going to accidentally raise her and then eat her. Kenji admitted that he had originally had such thoughts, but that he had now changed his mind. Jack was touched by such kindness from his creator and offered to eat himself if necessary. Kenji asked the girl if she wanted lunch before the pumpkin changed his mind about sacrificing himself. Such kindness made the girl burst into tears, and she could not express her emotions. Kenji suggested that the girl do whatever she wanted to do on her own, and if she saw fit, she could stay to live at his farm. Lily watched the strange guy with amazement, for she had never met such kind people before. Lily marveled that Kenji could grow monster plants at all, and that made him a unique person. After all, in this world, monster plants are considered to be nothing more than ingredients and part of everyday life. With that being said, people believe that such plants can only grow in the wild. In fact, even the mandrake traders who sell mandrakes do not believe that mandrakes can be grown in this way, and they are only used for seed collecting. In addition, many people hunt monster plants, and recently, hunting has become too mass. The 5 dangerous heroes are always busy fishing for rare species of monster plants, and they have greatly succeeded in their business. Lily explained that the point was that if the 5 heroes found out about Kenji, a man capable of growing monster plants, it could end in tragedy. Lily realized that Kenji was determined to grow mandrake, because it was impossible to change the farmer's mind. The girl went to the city and unexpectedly heard the locals discussing the guy who successfully grows monster plants on the outskirts of the city. Some people confidently said that they had personally seen that guy growing mandrakes. It became obvious that these rumors would quickly reach places where they didn't need to go at all. Lily became interested in the strange company of people and realized that a respected citizen of the town had paid for the services of outlaws who were to bring back anything of value they could find at Kenji's farm. Meanwhile, the young farmer named the girl he had raised Dora and cared for her in every way possible. Dora finally calmed down and realized that she was in no danger with the kind Kenji. But at some point Dora had doubts and thought again that perhaps Kenji was just pretending and waiting for her to grow up so that he could kill her and eat her. Kenji, of course, did not want to do that, and was only surprised that such a nice girl was of the same origin as the killer wolves. Suddenly, the young farmer noticed that the strange egg moved and decided that apparently the unknown creature, even as an egg, still understands everything and is trying to communicate. Kenji took care of his monsters, and it turned out that Dora needed only water and light to live. Meanwhile, under the cover of night, treacherous bandits were already approaching the farmer's cottage. As it turned out, Jack had the power of premonition and warned Kenji about the uninvited guests. Alas, it came too late and burglars broke into the house. The ringleader with a satisfied look asked if the guy who cultivates monster plants lived here. Kenji was outraged at the barbaric invasion and was angry about the broken door. The bandits immediately spotted Dora's mandrake and thought they had hit the jackpot. The bandits were delighted with the quality of the mandrake and praised Dora's color and smoothness and decided that if they sold the monster they would become rich. The robbers demanded that the young farmer give them the Dora immediately and promised not to harm him and even to pay for the destroyed door. But Kenji refused to give the bandits the lovely mandrake and armed with a stick decided to give a strong fight to the intruders. The robbers, of course, were not afraid of the young man and said that in that case they would take everything they needed by force. Jack and Mocha were not left out and also engaged in an unequal fight with the robbers. Just in time, Lily appeared at the farmer's house and the scales tipped in favor of the farmer's team. One of the bandits turned out to be the brother of the ringleader whom Lily had already knocked out and decided to take immediate revenge. Lily was an experienced warrior and easily dodged the attack and immediately delivered a counter-crushing blow. The next opponent was a large guy with a huge sword, but Lily, thanks to her lightning-fast reaction, quickly delivered several decisive blows and headed for the rest of the gang. At great speed, Lily overcame the resistance of the stunned robbers, and soon all the opponents were neutralized. Lily promised to turn the outlaws over to her brother's headquarters so that something like this would not happen again. Kenji thanked the girl's savior, and it pleased Lily very much. The girl admitted that she now had a lot of opinion about the farmer and said goodbye until the next meeting. Kenji realized that Lily was impressed by his desire to protect little Dora. Although it was understandable, the farmer couldn't give Dora to the brigands. After all, he had known her back when she was just an ordinary seed. Kenji remembered how hard he had worked to raise his monsters, and so he couldn't give them away to someone so easily. Not only Dora was very dear to the farmer, but all of his monsters he had already befriended. They were all unique and close to Kenji in their own way. Suddenly Dora cried and confessed that she was very scared and thought that Kenji would give her to her kidnappers. But the opposite happened and Kenji bravely defended her, and that's fine. The young farmer asked Dora to calm down and not to think anymore that she would be given to anyone. The little Mandrake was happy and promised to serve her master with all her heart from now on. Dora continued to cry and could not hold back her emotions, and Kenji realized that now his team had one more loyal friend. Lily admitted that things were going well on the farm now, but Kenji should behave carefully, because it would be very bad if someone dangerous and evil paid attention to him. The young farmer promised to stick to this advice and called the girl too pessimistic. Kenji noticed a strange-looking man coming to his farm and informed him that the Lord wanted to see the young farmer. The Lord welcomed in the guest at his mansion apologized for the unexpected invitation. The local aristocrat then inquired if Kenji was really growing a monster plant. Kenji thought that they would want to banish him from the town, and he had just managed to find his right path in life. But the Lord began to tell how he had heard a lot about the capable farmer and made it clear that there were many people who wanted to banish a person with such dangerous abilities. Although on the other hand, these monsters can benefit people, and since the damage of production is minimal, he won't banish Kenji from the city. After all, Kenji actually has supporters as well. The self-righteous Lord then said that he had some request for Kenji, and it would be better for everyone if this request was honored. The Lord asked the young farmer to raise a basilisk for him and compose him to carry his eggs. Kenji was completely unfamiliar with such a monster and did not know how to raise it. The Lord explained that the basilisk that caught the name refuses to eat, so they had some difficulties. And so it was hoped that a person who successfully cultivated the monster plant would be able to understand why such a thing was happening to the basilisk. The total number of basilisks is decreasing, but if they can be made to lay eggs, it will help the city a lot. At the same time, the Lord promised a generous reward if successful. Kenji wondered what would happen if he turned down the assignment. But the Lord made it clear with one look that it was best not to do so. Seeing a real basilisk, Kenji was shocked by the aggressiveness of the monster. And it was incomprehensible how such a ferocious creature could be made to do anything at all. Dora skeptically asked the young farmer if he was really sure he could accomplish the task. Kenji explained that he must make the basilisk lay eggs. After all, it was a request from the Lord himself. To begin with, Kenji decided to try to feed the basilisk with its usual food, and for this purpose he took a ripe pumpkin. But the willful creature refused the offered treat and turned away. Kenji realized that he had a difficult job ahead of him and wondered how, if monster plants are born from trees, why the basilisk lays eggs. The young farmer began to offer the basilisk a variety of products, but the result was always the same. The creature completely refused to eat. The stubborn monster showed no interest in food and only drank water. Lily explained that usually the basilisk, when caught by humans, chooses to die with honor and refuses to submit. This information did not at all add to Kenji's enthusiasm and confidence, and it was unclear how to accomplish the difficult task set by the Lord. Lily suggested that perhaps the Lord had deliberately decided to deceive Kenji, for it was the Lord who had agreed to banish the dangerous farmer from the city. Kenji was surprised at such deceit and realized that perhaps it was really just a clever trap. Lily explained that it was more likely that the Lord just wanted to banish Kenji legally. After all, since the farmer hadn't done any damage to the town, if the Lord expelled Kenji right now, without any reason, a group of people, including Mina, might start protesting. And so the basilisk situation absolutely has been constructed, and in fact it is a completely impossible assignment. Kenji realized what a mistake he had made by going along with the cunning lord and decided to release the basilisk. After all, he had tried to give his best for the sake of his beliefs, but now there was no point in keeping the innocent creature locked up. As soon as the cage doors opened, the basilisk broke free with a wild cry, literally knocking the young farmer to the ground. The freed monster began to run, quickly kneading his stiff limbs, and eventually, for some reason, dug a hole and collapsed. It all looked very strange, and Kenji wondered what the basilisk's danger level was. Lily explained that the danger level of a normal basilisk is D, and the hell wolves they had recently defeated had a danger level of E. And in general, above C rank are mostly those monsters that adventurers can't defeat. And with B ranks in general, it's dangerous to fight alone. Kenji listened with interest to the detailed information from Lily and decided to clarify what monsters are above rank B. Lily explained that they are essentially different dragons, and the name is ruled by a terrible wyvern. But in all monsters above rank, they are very dangerous creatures that you should avoid meeting. The young farmer examined the basilisk and was surprised at how cold the monster was. Kenji asked Lily if there was any way to help the basilisk. Kenji tried to think of a way to get the creature to eat something, but Lily cheerfully reported that the basilisk had laid eggs in a hole that had been dug. This was welcome news, and soon Kenji announced to the wily lord that his task had been successfully accomplished and the basilisk had laid eggs. The lord was incredibly surprised at this result and promised to pay the generous reward he had spoken of earlier. The lord then asked the farmer how he had ever been able to achieve such success. Kenji explained that a basilisk is not a bird and their real body is a snake head. Therefore, it was the snake part of the basilisk's body that suffered. The local lord admitted that he was amazed at Kenji's ability to study and cultivate monsters, and so he was allowed to stay in the city and continue his activities. At the same time, the lord suggested that Kenji continue to take care of the basilisk, and he would periodically buy its eggs. The lord reported that the people of this town and the guild disagree about Kenji's talent. Many argue about whether the ability to grow monster plants is dangerous or if it's really nothing to worry about. But if Kenji continues to cooperate in the same format, then no one else will be against monster farming. The young farmer realized that the cunning lord was politely giving him a chance. That being said, Kenji didn't understand what the lord was really thinking. But if he could continue growing his monster plants without any problems, that would be great. But for the next visit to the lord, he would need to grow something even more special. In the end, the lord was not deceived about the generous reward and gave Kenji a beautiful gemstone. The young farmer was overjoyed to receive such an expensive gem for his cultivation ability and realized that if he sold such a jewel, he could become instantly rich. Lily was also thrilled at the sight of the gem, but Kenji stated that it was only a reward for the basilisk and should be sold as soon as possible. Such a decision did not please the girl warrior. Jack watched with pleasure as Lily argued with Kenji. The girl in no way wanted to sell such a magnificent jewel and dreamed of keeping it as a piece of jewelry. But the farmer insisted and declared that he would sell the stone anyway. Kenji explained that it was useless to stop him and demanded to give him the gem. But Lily resisted with all her might. Eventually, the gem slipped out of the girl's hands and flew straight out the window. In the next moment, a terrible thing happened. The gemstone from the hard landing shattered into small shards, and it caused Kenji's real horror. The grief was so intense that the farmer shut up and started digging a hole. A disturbed Lily asked why he was doing that. Kenji explained in an indifferent voice that all those shards were no longer worth anything, and so he decided to bury the remains of the beautiful stone in his garden. But with the first rays of the morning sun, an incredible event began to take place. The many buried shards began to sprout quickly, and the stems rushed into the sunlight. Kenji, along with Lily, went about the daily business of being a farmer as usual. He continued to wonder when his mysterious egg would hatch. For would it really stay that way forever? Eventually, all the sprouted shards of the gemstone joined together and a huge tree grew. Lily marveled at the enormous size of the tree, and Kenji explained that it grew exactly on the gem's grave. Lily stated that it was a basilisk tree and suggested that they discuss it immediately, for there was something about the stone received as a reward that needed to be clarified. As it turned out, The girl offered to go to the mountains and ended up helping Kenji, who had no mountaineering skills at all and had great difficulty overcoming the climb. Lily reminded that they were partners and should help each other in any difficulties. The girl asked if Kenji really wanted to find a monster with animal form to try to mine a special stone. The farmer admitted that he has such a wish, but only he doesn't know how to do it. Lily pondered the question and asked him to give her some time. But a few minutes later, an animal roar was heard and a ferocious bear of very imposing size appeared before the business partners. Lily immediately bared her sword and explained that it was the king of the brown bears and most likely the ruler of the region. Lily also added that when brown bears evolve, they become B-rank monsters. Kenji wasn't too interested in the bear's evolution at this point and just suggested running away. But the brave Lily reminded of their goal to extract the stone from the monster and rushed to attack the huge monster. The brown bear was able to repel the deadly blows with its sharp blade without much difficulty and counterattacked Lily lightning fast. The battle was fierce and unfortunately, the blade of the brave Lily could not withstand the strong blows of the bear and flew out of the girl's hands. The girl was left unarmed and missed the blow and was thrown far away. Kenji was horrified at what had happened and tried to think of a way to help Lily. After getting rid of his opponent, the brown bear turned his attention to the young farmer and decided to destroy him as well. Kenji, armed only with an ordinary branch, watched in doom as the huge carcass of the ferocious monster rapidly approached him. But suddenly the egg came to his aid, and with a swift attack, he was able to stop the brown bear's rush. Taking advantage of this hiccup, Lily managed to approach the monster and cut off its head. The impact of the blade was so strong that the bear's head flew far away, and the forest was pierced by the victory cry of the brave Lily. After the victory, Lily apologized for her carelessness, but Kenji said that she was not guilty of anything, because he himself did not mind going on this dangerous journey. The young farmer did not forget to thank an egg, which very conveniently decided to go with them. After returning to the farm, Kenji planted the king brown bear stone and soon a huge tree grew. Such an accomplishment made the farmer and Lily proud. In fact, the stones inside monsters are the seeds of the monsters in question. Unlike animals, whose seeds are stones, plants have seeds in the form of grains. After thinking about everything that had happened, the brave Lily suggested that everything be kept secret. Kenji was very surprised at this decision and asked for an explanation. The girl explained that such a truth would shake the world, because no one else can grow monster plants. And if the truth of Kenji's capabilities were revealed, it would throw the world into chaos. Not to mention that the dangerous 6 heroes would be able to find out. Kenji asked why 6 heroes, since Lily had only mentioned 5 heroes earlier. The farmer felt that the girl was not saying much, although it was obvious that she was really trying to keep him out of danger. Lily advised Kenji to take no interest in these matters and concentrate on the work of raising monsters. Meanwhile, the 5 dangerous heroes were discussing the existence of a unique guy on the continent of Isekai'd. Judging from the information they received from the Lord, the heroes learned that the young farmer not only can grow monster plants, but is also able to tame them. One of the 5 heroes suggested that Kenji be brought to them immediately, as his abilities are truly amazing and should be recognized. The second hero reminded that the farmer constantly underestimates dangerous situations and this meeting could decide the fate of the world. But at the same time, the heroes realized that the Lord may still have something else to hide and understate, and so it would be better to find out everything secretly. During the discussion, the heroes decided that the philosophy hero should take care of the matter. The chosen hero thanked for his trust and admitted that this unique farmer interested him and it was necessary to meet him in person. After the hero of philosophy set off, the other heroes began to discuss that she lacked self-awareness and had no power. But still, the hero of philosophy is of the same rank as them, and it is strange. After all, having strength alone is not enough to become a true hero. It was obvious that this world was changing too fast, and now the most important thing was not strength. People who could introduce something new into the culture began to be valued. The hero of philosophy had great success creating and introducing the cooking of this era. That is why she is considered a great woman or hero. Therefore, among all the 6 heroes, she should be respected the most. Also, the heroes decided that in any case, the existence of a unique farmer can upset the balance of the world, and whether he is dangerous or not. At any rate, it is necessary to find out all the detailed information as soon as possible. Meanwhile, Kenji raised a small wyvern from an egg and welcomed the new baby into his home. All the residents of Kenji's farm were happy to meet a new friend and gathered together to get to know the baby wyvern. A few days later, the beautiful Mina approached Kenji in a shy voice. The young farmer immediately noticed how much the girl's face was flushed with embarrassment and wondered if Mina wanted to confess her feelings to him. But the young guy's expectations were not justified, because Mina only to participate with her in a cooking contest. Such a thing Kenji certainly did not expect and was genuinely surprised. The excited girl explained, "Such a competition is held once a year, and it determines which restaurant will represent the country. Since the winner of the contest would represent the country at a food festival in another country." Kenji understood absolutely nothing about cooking and figured he would be of little use. But Mina explained that if they could win the contest thanks to the monster plants Kenji grew, the farmer would get real recognition among the people. Kenji agreed with Mina's idea, because the doubts and prejudices about his activities still remained among the people. And thus Mina gives a chance to change the public opinion about monster farming. Mina told how much this country values good cooking, so people are continuously searching for the best recipes to make good dishes from monster plants. Kenji decided that if he could introduce people to the incredible flavors of foods that no one had ever tasted before, it could dramatically change opinions about monster plants. Kenji warned Mina that if they failed, her restaurant's reputation could be significantly ruined. But the girl didn't pay it any mind, reminded how much Kenji is already helping her restaurant, so she's willing to take the risk. An embarrassed Mina confessed that she sincerely wants to get people to start seeing Kenji as a good person. The woman's cunning persuasion won out in this conversation, and Kenji agreed to participate in the cooking contest. The farmer suggested to maximize their joint efforts to become the best cook. Lily, after visiting the Adventurers Guild, was once again convinced that the job of adventurers is to hunt monster plants, and for such challenging tasks, high-ranking adventurers earn support, reward, and reputation in gratitude from the government. Adventurers who are able to achieve significant success are given the rank of warriors. Therefore, all adventurers aspire to be warriors, thus wishing to become someone who has more power and glory than the king himself. But Lily did not want to follow this path. The sweet and kind girl wanted a peaceful and independent life. After all, she was greatly inspired by the farmer Kenji, who found his own way and tried not to depend on anyone. While walking down the street, Lily met a pretty brunette who politely asked her to point out where Chonghu's restaurant was. Lily pointed the girl the right way, and only when the stranger became distant did she realize exactly who it was. Lily soon came to visit Kenji's farm and was surprised at the farmer's decision to enter the cooking contest. Kenji explained that he would be helping Mina, but Lily immediately warned that winning this contest was not easy for anyone. Kenji advised Lily not to be so pessimistic and to have faith in her friend's success. But the beautiful adventuress declared that a noble gourmet had come to the contest. Kenji inquired who possessed such an appetizingly pronounced noble name. Lily stated that when it came to culinary skills, there was no one better than such gourmets, as they were the best cooks in the entire world. Thanks to her revolutionary techniques, this girl's family was made aristocrats. It is also rumored that even in her unique culinary family, she is the most skillful of all. Kenji wondered if this girl would really be in the competition. But Lily suggested that most likely the gourmet girl would participate as a helper of Chonghu restaurant. Mina explained that this restaurant, even many years ago, when she first moved to this city, did not consider her a worthy competitor. Mina admitted that Chonghu restaurant had always been a contender for first place in such contests, and now its chances had increased even more with the foodie. Kenji decided to salvage the team's positive attitude somehow and reminded them that they still have a lot of time and they just need to find a dish that everyone will recognize. Even though Kenji said so, it was clear that when the cooking competition started, he simply wouldn't have time to find and grow new monster plants. That was why the young farmer decided instead to find a way to turn the plants he grew into better ingredients as soon as possible. Jack and Dora immediately offered to cook them as ingredients, for they were always willing to sacrifice for their creator. But Kenji replied that he wasn't going to use his friends in cooking at all, and just chose another ordinary pumpkin. Also, the young farmer decided to use basilisk eggs. Basically, the basilisk was an ordinary chicken, but its eggs were much tastier than the ones he ate in his homeworld. Especially in the past, Kenji was able to accidentally find a seed in the forest and grew a basilisk tree. Kenji also decided to use demonic carrots for cooking, which had to be caught first. But that wasn't all the possible ingredients. One could still try to use the killer plant in cooking, but it was only unclear how exactly to eat it. Soon the day of the contest arrived. The beautiful contest host Sally, who was the administrator of the Adventurers Guild, welcomed all the guests and contestants. Sally explained that Lord Ecclesial and other respected culinary experts would be the judges during the contest. All registered restaurants in the city are allowed to participate, and it remains to be seen who exactly will be this year's winner. Kenji immediately noticed the noble culinary expert who looked very confident and calm. It was obvious that this was indeed the strongest competitor in the competition. The lady foodie greeted Kenji and asked if he was the guy who grew monster plants. The farmer introduced himself and confirmed his unique skills. The noble gourmet unexpectedly suggested Kenji to have a little competition. This was something the farmer had not expected at all and didn't know exactly how to react. The beautiful brunette explained that if he won, Kenji could do whatever he wanted with her. Lily, who heard the conversation, felt a twinge of feminine jealousy. And Kenji at this moment thought about the tempting offer, because it was difficult to refuse the opportunity to do with such a beauty whatever he wanted. The young farmer agreed to throw a good one into the competition. And Lady Gourmet Fitus caustically asked to take pity on her in case she lost. Sally announced to all the spectators that the contest was inaugurated and wished all the contestants good luck in achieving victory. As it turned out, there were quite a few contestants, and each contestant offered the best dish they could cook. Many immediately received low marks from the judges and dropped out of the competition. But of course, there were those who were able to surprise with their dishes and went on to the next stage of the competition. Most of the audience watched the culinary gourmet Fidessa, who decided to cook sea monster Karen. The girl skillfully handled the knife and very quickly prepared all the ingredients needed for the dish. Soon, the dishes of the participants from Jianghu restaurant were ready. The dishes looked amazing, including pineapple salad, thinly sliced and fried Karen squid, and dragon steak covered with lotus nut sauce. All the judges were delighted by the amazing flavors coming from the dishes prepared by Fedesa. After the judges tasted the dishes and experienced the incredible flavors, all but one gave scores of 10. Sally solemnly stated that such a high score was quite expected for last year's winner of the Cheonghu restaurant competition. Judging from the scores, the noble gourmet had gotten the highest score, 9 whole and 9 tenths. Next, the lovely Sally introduced the newcomer to the cooking competition, Mina and Kenji. The show host explained that due to the improvement in the quality of their ingredients, Mina's restaurant has become much more stable, and the number of Mina's hostess fan club members is growing very fast. Sally went on to wish good luck to the young restaurateur representative and asked the audience to support Mina. Sally also introduced Mina's assistant restaurateur, Kenji, and explained that he is the one who grows the monster plant. There was immediate controversy among the viewers of the competition. Some people thought it was too dangerous to grow monster plants. Others were convinced that Kenji was doing the right thing. There were also those who had already tasted the ingredients from Kenji's farm and were convinced that there hadn't been any monster attacks yet, and so everyone should calm down. Kenji and Mina prepared their dishes rather quickly and presented them to the jury. Among the dishes presented were Jack's lamp soup, lightly roasted demon carrots with mandrake flour, and basilisk meat baked in a sauce made from a killer plant. Jack was outraged that they didn't use himself to prepare the dish for the contest. And Dora was happy that she had been able to help the master and had provided her flour. All that remained was to wait for the result after the judges had tasted the dishes. Everyone eagerly waited for the judge's decision and maintained complete silence. At this moment, Kenji and Mina were of course the most anxious, while Sally waited for the moment when the number of scores could be announced. There were only seconds left before the results were announced, but in the minds of the contestants, they lasted for an eternity. Finally, the first score was raised with the number 10. The spectators could not believe that the strict judges showed the maximum marks, for all the placards had single 10s. Sally, in her well-practiced voice, hurriedly announced the winner of the cooking contest, but at that moment, the noble gourmet Fairies demanded to stop. The indignant brunette declared that she had prepared her dishes exclusively with top-notch ingredients and therefore simply could not have lost. On that basis, she demanded an explanation. Kenji looked at his competitor with surprise and realized how difficult it was for her to accept her defeat, because in addition to perfect ingredients, Fetissa boasted remarkable cooking skills. Lord Ecclesial did not argue with the renowned gourmet and invited Fetissa to try one of the dishes prepared by Mina and Kenji herself. The surprised brunette accepted the Lord's offer, and after tasting a small bite of the dish, she was amazed at the incredible flavor. Fetissa then happily finished the entire portion. The embarrassed Fetissa asked if Kenji was really able to make a great sauce from the killer plant and demanded to answer honestly. The young farmer stated that it would be much easier if Fetissa herself tried to make such a sauce and understood everything, and then Kenji demonstrated the very same killer plant. To ordinary people, everything that was happening was amazing, and the excited Lady Gourmet asked why this horrible plant did not attack Kenji. The young farmer explained that the whole secret was that this plant was grown in sandy soil, and so it was not aggressive. Fetissa did not believe in such explanations, for she honestly believed that it was impossible to grow such a monster in such conditions. Kenji explained that it was just an agronomic technique, and plants grown in such specific soil are deprived of their innate instincts and become much tastier. The unique farmer also stated that this type of monster plant attacks people and animals not because it needs food, but merely because of an overabundance of internal energy. Thanks to a special agricultural technique, the cause of aggression was discovered, and now the killer plants do not attack people, but focus on growing as much fruit as possible. Kenji demonstrated the results of his farming success and offered the surprised Thetis to taste the ripe fruits of the killer plant. The Lady Gourmand accepted the strange fruit and admitted that she had indeed lost in this competition. Sally joyfully announced the winner of the cooking contest as Mina's restaurant and the farmer's amazing assistant Kenji. And so they would represent the entire country at the International Food Festival to be held on the 10th continent in March. As expected, this incredible victory brought Kenji general recognition among the local people. Now there was no one left who was against the cultivation of monster plants. Kenji was able to prove the safety and excellent quality of the ingredients he grew and was able to make a name for himself outside the country. After completing a cooking competition, Lady Gourmet Fetissa finds the mysterious firm of her former adversary Kenji. In the meantime, everyone on the farm was hard at work as the harvest had to be managed. Kenji apologized to the people for her having to help with the hard work. But the daring adventuress admitted that she didn't mind participating in the farm work at all, as the increased number of customers after the contest was a good sign. The young farmer, of course, felt this way himself, that if it wasn't for winning the cooking contest, he wouldn't have been able to become so popular. Suddenly, in an excited voice, the landlord called out to Jack. Kenji and Lily instantly rushed to their friend's aid and rushed into the house to ask what had even happened and why he was screaming. Before he could figure out what was happening, Kenji felt the arms of an unfamiliar young girl around his neck. The stunned farmer asked where the child had even come from, but Jack reminded him that, in fact, this child had always been with them, only looking like the usual egg. Kenji was not immediately able to realize everything that had happened. He didn't expect a creature very similar to a human to hatch from an egg, much less a cute girl. In turn, the newborn girl continued to embrace her creator and showed incredible joy and thirst for intimacy. Such ardor made Kenji uncomfortable in front of the rest of his friends, because he did not expect this girl to be so loving. The young farmer could not understand what kind of monster plant this girl really was and whether she was definitely a monster plant at all, since from all visual parameters, she looked like a normal human being. Lily was surprised that this girl couldn't speak and helped her get dressed. Such strange abnormalities made Kenji think, and the guy decided to give the girl some name. The young lady herself struggled to pronounce only one word, soy. Kenji decided that if the girl kept repeating the same word, he should call her Sui, because that would make it easier for her to understand her name. The surprised farmer looked carefully into the girl's huge eyes and suggested that Sui should be together in the future and help each other. Judging from Sui's reaction, she perceived human speech perfectly, and with all her emotions showed consent to the proposal. Lily, watching Sui get acquainted with the rest of the inhabitants of the farm, admitted that it was the first time she had seen a monster plant with human form hatch from an egg. Kenji didn't know how to explain such a phenomenon and only suggested that it might be a kaikoromachi egg. Meanwhile, an uninvited guest entered the house. Lady Gourmet exclaimed that she was incredibly delighted by what she saw at the farm and how on earth Kenji was able to grow so many monster plants. Kenji and Lily were surprised to see a celebrated foodie from another country in their home. But Phytis immediately showed signs of attention to the owner of the house and asked to be called just by her first name. Kenji did not understand at all why this girl was in his house. But Phytis tried to explain that agricultural technique at the competition and Kenji's unusual thinking was the first time in her life that she had ever been so impressed. The farmer asked if that was the only reason she showed up at his house. But Phytis recalled her promise that if she lost, she was obliged to belong to Kenji and be at his complete disposal. So she is going to live in the house and hope that Kenji will share with her the knowledge of growing monster plants. Such feminine insolence of Lady Gourmet made Dora and Lily resent and feel extremely jealous. Phytis began to show her desire to be useful and needed by Kenji to the maximum. But the young farmer replied that he had absolutely no recollection of such a promise, and therefore Phytis should go home immediately. A little hesitant and embarrassed by this refusal, the beautiful brunette quietly said that she had been ordered to be with Kenji. This was more like the truth and greatly interested Lily in Kenji. The shrewd adventurous Lily immediately guessed that perhaps this girl had been ordered around by the 5 heroes and demanded details from Phytis. But Lady Gourmet rushed to hug Kenji and declared that she was no longer interested in other people's orders and wanted to serve the wonderful farmer. Kenji tried to get out of Lady Gourmet's clutches and was helped by Sui. Lily in turn tried to pull aside Phytisa. The emotional brunette's embrace was so strong that Kenji began to choke, and Lily did not have the strength to cope with Phytisa. It was obvious that Kenji had to be rescued as soon as possible, and all his monsters rushed to bail out their master. But Phytisa wasn't going to give up so easily and let go of her beloved farmer's embrace. The real battle continued in the farmer's house, and everyone tried to free Kenji from the brunette's grasp. Meanwhile, little Dora stealthily left the house and went traveling. Dora, of course, knew that she was actually a mandrake. The young lady loved to sleep, and so she slept underground when it was warm. And when cooler nights came, she slept in her master's bed. But ever since the beautiful Phytis came along, everything changed. The vacant seat next to the master was occupied by this insolent maiden. And although Kenji resented this situation, it didn't help at all to get rid of Phytis. All of this really annoyed little Dora, even though she didn't understand why this was happening. These emotions were unrelenting and Dora could think of nothing else. Dora also considered little Sui, who was always by Kenji's side and hugged her master at every opportunity, to be her enemy. Sui was so obsessive that she took up a lot of Kenji's time, who in turn did not refuse to care for the little girl. Dora could not accept this situation and believed that even if Sui was a monster of a class higher than her, it was still not Sui who was born first, and therefore the rightful place next to the master should belong to her older sister. Dora realized that Kenji did not understand her sincere feelings and was constantly busy so she could talk to him openly. This really annoyed the little mandragora, and it was difficult to constantly restrain her emotions. The young farmer, of course, noticed Dora's brooding and bad mood and tried to find out the reason for it. But Dora only kept silent and did not want to talk in front of witnesses, and especially in front of her rivals. Eventually, these inner sufferings bored little Dora, and the girl tried to decide on a desperate act. The little mandrake hid in the thicket of the garden and cried heavily alone, but a curious Jack strolled nearby and saw this sad scene. Dora remembered how she used to climb up on her master's head or shoulders to sleep there, but now she could no longer do that. A small wyvern sleeps constantly on her head, a crawling machai skulks on her legs, and the closest relationship her master has developed is with Jack. Kenji has also become incredibly close to the adventurous Lily, and this relationship is certainly not on the same level as with her, an ordinary Mandragora girl. This bond is much stronger, for it is between people. Real despair and resentment came over Dora, and the little lady Mandragora, due to her tears, didn't notice the rock in her path. The painful fall only added to the negative emotions, and the salty rivers from her eyes gushed with renewed vigor. Irritated Dora decided that now there was no point for her to be near her master, and she had better leave this house forever. It was over such heavy thoughts, and at the most emotional moment, that Jack appeared from the bushes and surprised Dora very much. Jack warned the little Mandrake that if she went too far away, it would make everyone worried, and so it was best not to. Jack tried to find out what was even going on with Dora and why she was so upset. Jack's skills as a psychologist helped Jack get the hurt girl to talk. Dora confessed that she feels very strange when she sees Kenji's master getting close to other girls. At such moments, jealousy and anger appear, and it is difficult to control her emotions. Jack explains that it is because Dora just loves Kenji. And this love is different from the attitude of others. Dora loves her master as a member of the opposite sex. Such an explanation caused the young Mandragora to be genuinely surprised, and she even stopped crying. Jack stated that it was because of such feelings that Dora disliked Kenji socializing with other girls. The feeling of jealousy of her rivals was beginning to make her angry and out of emotional balance. Dora realized that Jack had described her feelings quite accurately and regretfully said that she was only a mandrake. Jack asked if Dora would be willing to give up her sincere feelings just because she belonged to another species of living creature. Jack indeed turned out to be an excellent psychologist and advised the young Mandragora to think about why she loved Kenji so much instead of thinking about the reasons she disliked him. After these insightful words from Jack, young Dora realized many things. Dora realized that spending numerous days with her master, she was strongly drawn to him. She had developed a love that crossed the boundary that separates different species of living things. And until today, she hadn't realized how much she loved Kenji. Dora confessed first to herself that she actually loved her master exactly the way people of the opposite sex love each other. The little Mandrake instantly cheered up and thanked the perceptive Jack for such a great conversation. Jack himself was glad to help in such a situation, and once again convinced of his abilities as a skillful psychologist. But then something terrible happened. Something dark was rapidly approaching Jack and Dora. The attack was so fast that they did not have time to react and somehow avoid the attack. The unknown enemy very quickly placed a small mandrake in a magic ball trap. Jack desperately rushed to rescue his friend and demanded that Dora be released immediately. But unfortunately for Jack, his strength was not enough. The unknown opponent wearing a strange hat easily repelled Jack's attack and sent the brave defender into a knockdown. The frightened Dora kept trying to escape from the magic trap and called for help. But alas, all her efforts were futile, and she was being carried farther and farther away from her home, before finally losing consciousness from the effects of soporific magic. Frightened Dora remembered her beloved master and regretted that she had left him unattended. After little Dora disappeared, a worried Kenji began a search. Fistja thought that the little Mandrake had just gone for a walk and would return soon. But the young farmer decided that since Dora had been gone for a long time, perhaps something had happened to her and they needed to find out soon. Kenji considered the little girl part of his family and was very worried about her fate. Lily noticed the farmer's concern and wondered what had happened while she was in town. Shortly after the search began, Kenji found Jack unconscious with signs of a beating. The farmer brought Jack to his senses and inquired what had happened to him. In a weak voice, Jack was able to tell how a witch in a white robe had grabbed Dora and carried her off to an unknown destination. Lily was outraged and said that it simply couldn't be possible that Yuki Anna had traveled so far from her home. Kenji asked the adventuress to tell everything she knew about the witch who had kidnapped Dora. Lily explained that behind the dense forest is a snow-covered mountain, and that's where the witch lives. Once an army was sent there to defeat the witch, but all the warriors were frozen at the entrance and luckily they were able to survive the journey. Kenji asked why this dangerous witch wanted Dora in the first place and how she knew where to kidnap her. Lily didn't know how to answer and became visibly upset. Kenji realized that the adventuress was hiding something and asked her to tell the whole truth. In the end, Lily stated that the Witches' Union is a very dangerous organization. Although witches are human, they are also enemies of humans. There are rumors that witches were related to the deceased demon lords. The mention of demon lords frightened Kenji, and it was clear that it was not to be regretted that he had not met these terrifying creatures. Despite the possible danger, the friends decided to go to the snowy mountain and rescue Dora. Everyone was airy and ready to overcome all difficulties to reach Yuki Anna's castle. Kenji could not accept the disappearance of a family member, especially realizing that Dora was in danger. Meanwhile, the witch Yuki Anna was climbing the many steps into the tower and carrying the unconscious body of little Mandragora. The witch in the white robe remembered talking to her brother and how he had said that raising monsters was not evil, because monsters were a very important part of the world around them, and it is because of monsters that humans can exist. Therefore, monsters themselves are not simple creatures and cannot be simply defined as friend or foe. That is why people with such expansive thinking came together, and those who started living with monster plants were called witches. Elder brother Yuki Anna was a wise and excellent witch doctor who was always enthusiastic and eager to study monsters. Yuki Anna herself was considered weak, but even she could understand the thoughts of different monsters. Thanks to this ability, the witch was able to become a link between different species. One day, her older brother found a dryad. It was known that the blue hair of the dryad could be used to make many kinds of useful medicines, so these defenseless creatures were hunted by adventurers. Yuki Anna and her brother took care of the injured dryad, and soon all wounds healed quickly. Yuki began to call the dryad Dori-chan and became close to the girl. Yuki had always been bad at finding common ground with people, but there was no such problem while interacting with Dori-chan. The witch was happy to find such a wonderful friend, but unfortunately the happiness did not last long. Suddenly, the so-called evil monster plant alliance appeared and people began to hunt the witches living with the monsters. Although witches were thought to be very powerful among humans, they did not really have any power that would help them resist the attack. Yuki Anno's parents and brother sacrificed themselves so that she and Dori-chan could escape. In the end, Yuki Anno was able to escape with her friend high into the snowy mountains. Shortly thereafter, Dori-chan's condition became worse and worse, and nothing could be done about it. Yuki Anno was very worried about her only friend and decided that she had an obligation to help her in some way. The witch in the white robe accidentally spotted Dora's mandrake and decided that she could use it to save her dying friend. But Dori-chan asked what Yuki was even going to do with the little mandrake and asked her not to harm her. Dori-chan explained that it was not worth sacrificing the little girl for her sake, for it would not help save her. The kidnapped Dora had already had time to come to her senses and realized what was really going on. The little mandrake informed her that her master knew how to raise monsters and perhaps he could help cure Dori-chan. Yuki Anna was surprised that such a person could even exist and decided that even if it was true, it was unlikely that he would want to help the witch who had kidnapped his friend. But the very fact that there are people in the world who are friends with mandrakes, just as Yuki herself is friends with Dori-chan, greatly inspired the witch. Soon, Kenji and his team showed up at the witch's hideout. Yuki Anna immediately brought changes for the trouble they had caused and explained her motives. Unable to contain her emotions, the witch cried and asked for help to save her favorite friend Dori-chan. Kenji was surprised by such a request and didn't quite understand what was wanted from him. But the important thing was that they were able to save Dora, who was happy to see her favorite master, after making sure Dora was safe. Kenji took a closer look at the strange witch and realized how upset she was. Dora asked the young master to try to help the dying girl who was very dear to Yuki Anna. Kenji didn't know how to act since he didn't know how exactly he could help in such a situation. A worried Yuki Anna explained that the dying girl is her friend and she is a dryad. Kenji was surprised, for he had never encountered dryads before, much less witches who were friends with such creatures. Yuki Anna was no less surprised, as it was the first time she had seen a person who could not only grow monster plants, but also be friends with them. The young farmer decided that if Dora had forgiven the witch, then he should try to help the dying dryad, although he was not sure of success. Kenji examined Dori-chan's tortured body and noticed that in some places she had already begun to rot. The farmer thought that the reason was that the young dryad had been in a cold place for too long and her body was almost completely exhausted. Kenji stated that even if one tried to help Dori-chan, it was unfortunately too late and it was unlikely that her body would be restored. The witch Yuki cried harder than before and cried out that she couldn't lose her best friend. But Dori-chan tried to calm the witch down and promised that she would surely manage alone. Kenji decided to clarify if he understood correctly that a dryad is also a plant monster. Lily understood the farmer's train of thought and agreed that even if the Dori-chan died, it could be regrown. But it was not known whether the new dryad from the Dori-chan sprout would be the witch's friend. While discussions were going on about possible options to save the dying dryad, Yuki Anna's despair increased. The witch realized that Dori-chan was on the verge of death. A horrible tragic scene played out in front of Kenji and his friends. Everyone sadly observed the witch's suffering, but alas, no one could help the situation. After a few minutes, the horrible climax came and the innocent Dori-chan took her last breath, leaving her only friend alone. However, Kenji did not give up his idea and still decided to conduct a strange experiment. After some time, the young farmer showed Yuki Anno the new monster he had been able to grow from a part of the dead Dori-chan and explained that all he needed to do so was a single stem. Nova Dryad woke up and opened her childish eyes. And Yuki Anno sincerely wanted the rebirth of her beloved friend and looked at the little baby monster with hope. The little Dryad stared at the excited witch in surprise, and for a moment, their gazes met. The seconds of uncertainty stretched impossibly long and Yuki waited for the newborn girl's first word. But then a true miracle happened. The Dryad recognized her friend and called her by name. The feeling of incredible happiness made Yuki Anno blush and tears of joy rolled down her cheeks. The two friends held out their hands to each other, further adding to the drama of the moment. Even Dora cried with excitement, while a surprised Kenji enjoyed another success of his unique cultivation. The witch Yuki thanked the young farmer and Kenji only now noticed how attractive the young witch was, even without looking at the worried and crying face. But this dramaturgically perfect moment was savagely disrupted by Lily. The adventuress declared in an indignant voice that she would like to ask Yuki some questions. Lily sternly inquired what Yuki knew about the sealed witch. But Yuki replied that she had never heard of such a thing and didn't know how to help. Lily then asked if Yuki Anno had ever attacked or otherwise harmed people. The young witch became very agitated and began to assure Lily that she had never done anything like that and was only trying to survive in the mountains. Lily looked at Yuki carefully and then still as coldly stated that she believed the witch. Kenji didn't understand what exactly was going on and asked Lily to explain why she felt that way about Yuki Anno. The angry adventuress explained that the witch's alliance had taken someone dear to her, and that was why she did not trust witches. After these words, the adventuress left, and Kenji wondered exactly what kind of dear person this beautiful girl had lost. After all, it was obvious that something terrible had happened in Lily's past. This situation upset Yuki Anno as well, as the witch felt some sort of responsibility for what had happened in Lily's life. Kenji apologized for Lily's behavior and promised that one day Yuki would find common ground with the adventuress. At the same time, Kenji admitted that he himself had never seen Lily in such a state. The witch was really worried about her attitude and questioned whether they could ever be friends at all. Kenji decided to help the young witch and offered to be his friend for starters, and then promised that things would definitely get better in the future. All the monsters followed their master's example, and all of them became friends with Yuki Anno and became a new family for the witch. Jack forgot his grudges from the very first meeting with Yuki and declared that the witch could count on him in any situation. Yuki herself was embarrassed by such kindness and apologized to Jack for her act, explaining that she had not wished him harm at all. To make it more convincing, the witch bowed to Jack and promised never to harm him again. Despite his serious appearance, Jack was a kind and magnanimous monster. He stated that he understood everything perfectly, because at that moment Yuki was only trying to save her friend. Jack then joked that from now on he hoped for a warmer attitude from the attractive witch. Such words made Yuki blush even more, and she could not find anything to answer. The witch was happy to make new friends and asked to take care of her since she was tired of hiding and being afraid all the time. The little girl Sui liked to ride Jack, who quickly got tired of such entertainment and asked for some rest. Kenji repeatedly reminded Sui that it could be dangerous if she suddenly fell and hit herself, but it was hard to convince the child of anything. Also, the little girl was constantly afraid of being alone and was very excited every visit from the witch Yuki, whom she liked very much. The little girl was very bored when Yuki was at her place in the mountains and looked forward to every time they met. Kenji offered to witch Yuki to have lunch because she had traveled a very long way to see her friend Dori-chan. But Yuki didn't see it as a problem and unexpectedly asked if this girl Sui really is a monster plant. Fairies was also surprised when she found out that Sui wasn't really a human, because she was almost indistinguishable from a normal child. And Kenji didn't even expect that the lady foodie didn't even realize it before. During their lunch together, the adventurous Lily came to visit and asked what they were doing here. Lily immediately met eyes with Yuki Anno, and both girls said hello rather coldly. Jack, meanwhile, was telling them that they weren't really sure who exactly Sui was. After all, she had hatched from an egg that Kenji had once found in the forest. And it had been 6 months since Sui had been born, and in all that time, she had never learned to speak anything more than a single word. Fairies and Yuki listened to the story of Sui's appearance with amazement and confessed that they could not even imagine such a thing. The witch Yuki said that of course there had been cases of monster plants with human form before, but she had never seen such a resemblance to a real person. Kenji was interested in the witch's knowledge of the development of various monster plants, but it was hard to talk when little Sui was running and screaming around the table. As it turned out, little Sui was just attracting attention and wanted to show something, and in her hands were butterfly flowers. Lily was surprised by the beautiful little moths and said that when they bloom, they turn into monster plants that look like butterflies and fly away. Such creatures are very rare and people call them good luck plants. Kenji thanked little Sui for such a beautiful gift and began to look at the small, brightly colored creatures with interest. Lily explained that if you touch the butterfly flowers and give an order, they will hover at any specified place. Lily also thanked Sui for the unexpected gift and promised to cherish it. Kenji watched the beautiful flight of the little brightly colored creature with interest and felt strangely embarrassed that Sui might have been hinting at something since she had given the butterflies to just him and Lily. But all of a sudden, the lovely thoughts were disturbed by a sudden knock on the door. The irritated farmer headed for the door and wondered who it could be, since everyone close to him was home. Suddenly, Kenji sensed possible danger and wondered if those scumbags, the pseudo-adventurers who wanted to rob him, were at the door again. Kenji decided that perhaps they had come for little Sui. The worried farmer asked everyone to hide far away in the house and take Sui with them. Kenji armed himself with a stick and, feeling the support of the brave Lily, cautiously approached the door and prepared to attack. But an event far more surprising than an attack by some bandits happened. From the open door, a whole pile of festive ribbons and colorful confetti fell on the ready-to-attack farmer. Behind the door was a beautiful girl who greeted the owner of the house and explained that she was Mikoshi, the goddess of this world. Kenji continued to hold the stick warily, not fully realizing who was really in front of him. And the goddess Mikoshi explained that although they did not know each other, she had been observing Kenji's work for a very long time. But the young farmer, from the shock he had experienced, did not perceive the information well and asked the uninvited guest who she was and why she had come to his house. The girl repeated that she was Mikoshi, one of the goddesses of this world, and if it was convenient for Kenji, he could call her simply Moken. Kenji thought it was an unexpected surprise since out of nowhere a pretty girl with a mental disorder came to visit him. And it would be better if they were just regular bandits. Mikoshi showed her fantastic powers and stated that it was rude to think that way and Kenji should realize that she was indeed a real goddess. The shocked farmer thought that could it be that this girl really read his mind and then asked Lily to say something about it. Lily was delighted by the appearance of the real goddess and asked the girl if she was really the same Mikoshi. Kenji was surprised at the adventurous girl's reaction, for he had expected Lily to quickly expose the deceiver. Mikoshi exclaimed that now she could be believed, but it should not be forgotten that she was only a religious symbol, so nothing unusual had happened. The goddess Mikoshi then explained that she had come for a reason anyway, and had something she wanted to ask Kenji. The strange goddess asked if Kenji would mind listening and promised to tell her who little Sui really was. The surprised farmer thought that he didn't really understand everything, but apparently in this situation he had no choice but to listen to the goddess, otherwise he would be tormented by doubts. Kenji asked Mikoshi if Lily and Fairies could go with them. The goddess Mikoshi replied that there was no problem, and then suddenly touched the young farmer's shoulder, which made Kenji feel something strange. A moment later, all four of them were high in the sky and floating as if they were weightless. Lily was the most delighted by what had happened and asked if the legendary tree was down there. The goddess Mikoshi explained that it was indeed the tree of the world, which is described only in religious books. This was the first time Kenji had heard of such a tree, though he was very surprised at its colossal size. The goddess Mikoshi explained that no human had ever been here before, and that the tree was usually called the Tree of Life. At least that is what people are more accustomed to. Mikoshi said that the ancient Tree of Life is rich in different fruits. And if you eat the fruit of wisdom, for example, you can gain knowledge of the whole universe. So one day Adam and Eve ate the fruit of life to gain immortality and became incredible creatures. They reached the level of gods, and so the gods hated them and subsequently banished them away. And this is indeed the tree from the story of the Garden of Eden. And the Tree of Life itself was born from just one of the 10 Sephiroth. Mikoshi stated that of course people from the other world would have a different knowledge, for on the land from which Kenji came there is a very different story of the gods and their adventures. But in this fantasy world, there are only 10 continents. Once there was a Tree of Life on each of them, but 6 of them unfortunately died and eventually only 4 remained. Mikoshi got to the point of her narrative and asked Kenji to regrow the Trees of Life. The surprised farmer tried to realize what was even happening to him and wondered why these magical trees had disappeared since there were less than half of them left. Lily explained that the foolish people had actually cut down the 6 great trees of life. This angered the farmer. For such a crime he did not expect people to commit. Fairies explained that things had changed in the world now, and these trees were no longer called trees of life, but were now mistakenly called demonic trees, and of course the attitude itself was different. All this information completely confused the farmer, but it was clear that demon trees are the opposite of trees of life. The goddess Mikoshi explained that the way it turns out is that every monster plant is born from a seed. And now it is important for Kenji to understand where that seed comes from. While the adults were discussing important topics, little Sui discovered an interesting fruit on a tree and decided to taste it, completely unconcerned about global issues. Mikoshi told her that originally all seeds came from the Tree of Life, and when those seeds began to grow, many kinds of monster plants appeared. Lily clarified that this was why the shallow people considered the Tree of Life that gave rise to monsters to be the most important evil in the world. And as a result, humans destroyed all available trees of life. Mikoshi called humans too cruel. After all, humans completely fail to realize that all monsters are a part of this world. And humans see monsters as nothing more than hunting trophies. Mikoshi asked with bitterness in her voice why people can't live in peace at all. After all, it should be just... About 100 years ago, humans had learned where monster plants actually came from, and since then, they had begun a wild hunt for the so-called demon trees. Kenji gradually realized all of Mikoshi's concern and pain. Since the animals and plants of his homeworld were also an important part of all living things, and there were also those on Earth who didn't value other people's lives. Kenji stated that if all monsters were exterminated, then humans would also be in danger of total extinction. Mikoshi agreed and was glad that Kenji really understood everything. But even against common sense, a group of monster hunters appeared and with their terrible activity upset the entire world's balance. Lily explained that this was the great 6 heroes she had told about before. The so-called illustrious heroes who managed to destroy the demonic trees. Although the Tree of Life reaches the clouds, they were able to do so by displaying an incredible thirst for destruction. Fairies said that there is a saying about those who were able to accomplish such an incredible feat: honor, might, and power they have more than the king himself. Fairies reported that in a sense these illustrious heroes rule the entire world in many ways, making their own rules. In the end, Kenji admitted that he understood the bulk of what he had heard, of course. But it still needed to be clarified whether Mikoshi really wanted him to grow new trees of life. The goddess's answer was expected, and she confirmed her request, stating the importance of this. But Kenji was indignant and asked how he could even do such a thing, since only a god could grow a tree of life and he was just an ordinary man. Unexpectedly, Mikoshi informed that Kenji actually has the ability of a god called the Breath of Life, and so he is quite capable of creating a tree of life. Kenji was surprised at Mikoshi's words and asked if he had grown all his monster plants just because of this unique ability. The goddess confirmed the farmer's assumption and jokingly called him a true genius of insight. Kenji realized that he had gotten his unique ability after all after he entered this fantasy world. Kenji asked if raising monsters and creating new life were the same thing in this world. Mikoshi exclaimed that it is the same power of God about which many religious books have been written. The goddess was surprised and asked that no one had ever asked the farmer about his unique ability. After all, it is very surprising that Kenji manages to grow monsters so easily while no one else knows how to do it. The young farmer finally realized why his work always went so smoothly and he could easily grow any kind of plant. Mikoshi explained that what she needed now was for Kenji to find the kernel for the new tree of life. The goddess showed an image of the needed kernel, which was very much like a huge gem. The surprised farmer asked where he could find this unique kernel that few people knew about. As it turned out, the kernel was in the heart of the tree of life. But unfortunately, when people cut down the trees, they stole all the kernels. Kenji realized that at this moment, all the stolen cores are in the hands of the great 6 heroes who are in charge of destroying all the monsters. It was obvious that these heroes were very dangerous people because they were able to cut down the trees of life and were able to kill top-class monsters. Kenji decided that he can't just go to them and ask them to return the cores, and now this whole situation is like some kind of trap. And it would be better if he could just politely decline the goddess Mikoshi's request. But of course, the beautiful goddess had already read all the thoughts of the insecure farmer and knew his doubts. Mikoshi declared that she had forgotten to explain something and he should listen to her carefully. The goddess clarified that the trees of life keep the life energy of this whole world flowing. But at the moment there were only 4 of them left, and when the trees could not maintain the flow, the world would end. Kenji was horrified by the words of the beautiful goddess and refused to believe what he had heard. After all, since he had come to this world, he too would suffer the same fate if civilization died. Mikoshi confirmed that the farmer would perish with this world. Kenji began to curse the stupid and worthless destroyers of trees, for their actions are absolutely idiotic, since it threatens to destroy all living things. Kenji asked why an omnipotent goddess like Mikoshi couldn't just explain everything to all the people. After all, you can just tell all these terrible things to the great 6 heroes. But the beautiful goddess explained that she was only responsible for watching over this world, and she had no right to interfere in people's affairs. It all seemed silly, but Kenji did not argue. And since this world is inhabited by humans, they have the right to decide their own fate. And so they cannot blame the gods for their decisions. The young farmer irritably asked why he should be the one to solve a global problem. Mikoshi blushed visibly and pondered the explanation. The goddess stated that she had been observing all humans for a very long time and had become very attached to this unique world. Mikoshi described how she had watched Kenji with interest from the moment he appeared in this world. In doing so, she was surprised at the friendliness of the young farmer who was able to make loyal friends. After all, Kenji was able to communicate calmly and without any prejudice not only with humans, but also with different kinds of monsters. Mikoshi confessed that this was why she could no longer remain silent and decided to ask Kenji for help in saving the world. After all, he can unite humans and monsters by his own example. Kenji realized the danger and agreed to collect the kernels of the trees of life and then try to grow new trees of life. The farmer decided that in his new life he had a chance to realize all his abilities and so he should not miss it. Meanwhile, while Kenji, Lily, Sui, and Fidus were with the goddess Mikoshi, the witch Yuki was watching over the house along with the monsters. Everyone was minding their own business, or rather doing whatever they wanted. Soon everyone returned home and Mikoshi once again rejoiced at the wonderful cooperation between humans and monsters. For in this house there was no hatred for each other, and everyone was a true friend. Kenji invited the goddess to look around his farm and thanked his friends for looking after the house. Mikoshi then decided to reveal the secret of little Sui's true identity. The omnipotent goddess declared that the little girl was actually the daughter of a demon lord. No one expected such a thing, and the surprising discovery about Sui caused a lot of emotions among Kenji and the rest of the farm's inhabitants. Jack asked little Sue not to go far away from him and to stay close to him so he wouldn't worry. Jack didn't always have time to notice how Sui managed to slip away from him. Jack explained that everything was fine for now and they had found just what they needed. After all, the host is already busy because of the cooking contest, and so they should all help him in some way. Meanwhile, the strict Lady Gourmet Fidus was giving a cooking lesson and explained that the dishes for the nobles are completely different from any everyday food, and especially the sauce is different. Therefore, the main ingredient should be something with a very rich flavor. Fidus inquired how the plant thought Kenji was a suitable ingredient for this. For an example, Kenji showed raw rice with edible seeds growing on its stems, but then stated that it was hardly worth using this ingredient in the competition. Fidus praised the student for his wise decision. The lady foodie explained that such an ingredient would be great for making onigiri, and explained that it was a flatbread made of unleavened rice with admixtures of tasty ingredients. Kenji imagined a strange dish and asked her to teach him how to make a similar flatbread in the future. Soon a joyful Mina came running to the farm and showed off the invitation she had received to an international cooking competition. Kenji was very excited and admitted that it had happened much faster than he had anticipated. Fidus, thanks to her experience, kept calm and asked her to open the invitation envelope as soon as possible. From the letter, it was revealed that this year, the cooking contest would still be held on marked the 10th continent. The organizers of the contest expressed their delight at the participation of representatives from the quadrid of the 4th continent. The names of contestants Mina and Kenji were also clarified. The winner of this magnificent competition is set to become a legend, and his name is sure to go down in history for centuries. And the winner's restaurant will be upgraded to a 7-star restaurant. Well, and the most important prize for the winner will be a unique core of the world tree. Kenji was surprised by such a unique prize, and Fidus said that the core of the Tree of Life was obviously not just put up as a prize, and it would be nice to know whose idea it was. Lady Gourmet then suggested that the previous winner of the contest, the hero sage Kasarina, was most likely behind the idea. Kenji wondered who Kasarina even was, since she could have so much influence over contests like this. Fidus explained that Kasarina is a true legend in the field of cooking. Many say that Kasarina has single-handedly pushed the culinary industry forward centuries and is a genius at cooking various dishes. In addition, Kasarina, as last year's winner, has the right to choose the theme of the competition, and this year she chose the main theme seafood. Kenji resented such a theme because he didn't understand seafood at all. It was also revealed from the letter that the monster plant that Kasarina plans to use to prepare her dish is the monster plant S-Class Leviathan. An excited Fidus reported that the ingredient from the S-Class monster plant is a 5-star product in terms of pungency. Mina realized that Kasarina was not only an incredible cook, but also had access to such rare ingredients. Fidus wondered why her teacher had decided to go so far during this cooking competition. Kenji was surprised when he heard what Fidus said, for he didn't even expect the lady cook to be familiar with one of the 6 heroes. The young farmer asked if he had correctly realized that Kasarina was her cooking teacher. Fidus admitted that she was indeed a long-time student of Kasarina, and it was she who taught her many of the secrets of cooking rare dishes. Also, Fidus explained that at the last cooking competition, it was Kasarina who ordered her to get close to the unique farmer Kenji. Such unexpected details really surprised Kenji. Fidus explained how she had to get close to Kenji on Kasarina's orders, but now she is also here because she admires the farmer's skills very much, and it is not a personal decision. The flustered Lady Gourmet confessed that she feels very ashamed because she lied to Kenji initially and regrets her primary motives. Kenji ended up taking the whole situation, calmly stating that he actually understood everything perfectly well and therefore no longer suspected Fairies of anything. The problem was that seafood was the only type of monster plant that Kenji had never grown before. And everything indicates that Kasarina is well aware of all his weaknesses. Fairies explained that her teacher Kasarina didn't carry the title of Sage Hero for nothing. Out of all the great 6 heroes, aside from her combat skills, her cooking skills, wisdom, and cunning helped earn that title. Therefore, she holds such with a high status absolutely deserved. Fairies suggested that Kasarina had chosen the seafood theme based on the results of the previous competition, and therefore it would be very difficult to win in the upcoming competition. While the adults were having a serious conversation, little Sui was trying to show Kenji something. Sui showed her master the ingredient he used to make a sauce in the previous cooking competition. And that sauce was so good that Fairies had happily drank every last drop of it, and thanks to it, he had won. Kenji decided that most likely this fantasy world had always used ordinary salt and pepper, and that was why his great sauce was a breakthrough in cooking. And that was most likely the key to winning the previous competition. So if he could create another sauce like this, then perhaps the chances of winning the international competition would be greatly improved. Kenji began to quickly go through the available ingredients and tried to come up with something incredible. Eventually, Kenji realized that his secret exclusive seasonings from Japan should impress the people of this world with their taste, and thank you, he would definitely win the competition. The enthusiastic farmer declared that he could use these precious beans from the monster plants he grows in the cooking contest, and it would be a sure thing. Kenji's friends saw the farmer overly excited and sincerely trying to find ways to win the contest, but everyone realized that his efforts might not be enough. Eventually, Kenji himself realized this, because Kasarina used ingredients from the Leviathan's class monster plant. And even if he came up with a new technique to make some unique dish, the difference between the ingredients would still be too big. Therefore, one must use at least the same rare ingredient to have any chance of winning. The frustrated farmer admitted that his ingredients would not be suitable at all for the contest and stated that he needed to do some walking and thinking. Kenji went to his vegetable garden and sighed heavily as he pondered the possibility of getting some rare ingredient, though in truth he had no idea how to do it. Shrewd Jack decided to calm his beloved master down a bit and offered him a chance to refresh himself and take his mind off his heavy thoughts. As it turned out, all the young farmer's friends had specially made a wonderful garden bath for him and said that they were very eager to help him overcome his difficulties. Jack then suggested that he should not be shy and get into the water as soon as possible to relax. The bathtub was quite spacious and it allowed us all to fit in it together. Being in the warm water on a beautiful sunny day was a real pleasure and relaxation for a tired body. Dora explained that they used heated coals to warm the water and additionally threw in some pebbles. All of this would help with faster recovery, and the wounds on Kenji's arm would heal in no time. The satisfied farmer thanked his friends for such a wonderful gift, for his tired hands were really sore after his exhausting labor. Little Sui looked questioningly at her beloved master, and Kenji explained that all the recent problems were due to preparations for the cooking contest. Despite her limited ability to communicate, little Sui was well aware of what was going on around her. After all, she was the daughter of a demon lord. Her true origin certainly allowed her to be a unique being. After all, the demon lord is the great overlord who commands all monster plants, and she is the guardian of the trees of life. Therefore, she is the most important protector of the entire existing world. The goddess Makishi said that this was the case until the demon lord was killed a few years ago. It was the great 6 heroes who were able to hunt down and treacherously destroy the great protector of the world. But by an incredible coincidence, the demon lord had managed to leave offspring, and it was Sui who was her rightful successor. At the last moment on the verge of her death, the demon lord managed to encase Sui in a protective shell and teleported her to a safe place. This protective shell was essentially a magical barrier protecting her only daughter from any danger in the outside world. Also, Goddess Makishi explained that demon lords are quite different from other monster plants. So they usually give birth to their own children and try to give them to someone else. Kenji marveled at such uniqueness of little Sui and asked how he even managed to raise such a rare girl. Makishi explained that it was all due to the unique ability to breathe life, because the magical shell that Sui was in was not easy to destroy. But the demon lord's little daughter herself destroyed the protective shell from within because she felt safe and thought Kenji was her birth father. The farmer became agitated at this news and called himself a stepfather rather than a father to Sui. But be that as it may, the young heiress of the demon lord really felt very happy. Then Goddess Makishi once again reminded that the world was on the verge of its destruction, for there were only 4 trees of life left, and if this was not changed, sooner or later the world would cease to exist. One must also realize that the demon lord exists only to protect the trees of life, and if there are no more trees left, there will be no place for the demon lord in this world either. Kenji realized how great a responsibility he had, for if he could not get the core of the tree of life, it would bring the horrible ending of this world even closer. Therefore, it is necessary to win the cooking contest by all means. The farmer also realized that if he failed, all his friends would die, including the harmless little Sui, who does not even realize the danger hanging over her. Meanwhile, on the 10th continent, preparations for a cooking contest were actively underway. The organizers of the event were striving to create the best possible conditions for all the contestants. The ingredients purchased were so plentiful that it amazed all the workers, and they could only guess how grandiose in scope the upcoming cooking contest would be. Some monster plants caused astonishment and incredible interest in all the workers. Many of the ingredients had never been seen before, and it all promised to be an unforgettable spectacle. The person in charge of preparing and organizing the contest was constantly yelling at the workers and demanding that they not touch the ingredients or else the preserving spell would be broken and the food would spoil. The organizers of the contest intended for it to begin in less than a month. There was little time left and the work to be done was enormous, and so everyone was in a hurry to get everything done on time. Kenji realized that there was not much time left before the international cooking competition. And the closer the event got, the more excited he became. Kenji was still looking for a solution that would help him win. The young farmer decided that if he could something likely, he would have a chance. But the most important thing was to decide on the ingredient. Suddenly, Lily appeared nearby and stated that Kenji knew all he had to do was ask for help. The guy didn't expect the beautiful adventuress to appear at all and was embarrassed by his heartstrings. Lily stated that Kenji has been completely unlike himself lately, and this will not help the problem in any way. Also, Lily reminded that her friend Mina is very worried about Kenji because he is torturing himself too much about the upcoming competition and can't make up his mind about the main course. The girl asks why at the last moment Kenji gave up his idea that he came up with originally, because he was pretty sure about it. And then everything suddenly changed and Kenji didn't explain anything to anyone. The agitated farmer was surprised at how easily his actions were exposed. But Lily immediately explained that he literally had it written all over his face, and absolutely everyone understood how worried Kenji was about the upcoming contest. Lily demanded to tell the whole truth and explain exactly what Kenji needed for the perfect dish. But the farmer declared that it was all too dangerous, and he didn't want to risk the lives of his close friends, and especially not Lily's life. Kenji admitted that he couldn't even realize himself how dangerous his request could be. But Lily stated that she had not made her intentions to help clear enough. The girl instantly became angry and grabbed Kenji by his clothes, then barked that she should not underestimate her abilities. Lily was really furious and demanded not to worry about her, and since they are all a team together, she doesn't want to be underestimated and stay out of trouble. After all, the whole team must be held on trust, and no matter what happens, a partner has to have their back. Lily reminded that they were also present during the conversation with Goddess Makishi, and so everyone sincerely wants to save little Sui. So this problem is not only personal to Kenji, but concerns all team members. The girl stated that they are all connected, so Kenji should believe in her abilities and give her a chance to help the common cause, because otherwise nothing will work out, since you can't handle such a problem alone. In the end, the young farmer agreed with Lily's arguments, but also wanted to go with her to find the right ingredient. The rest of the team wanted to help, of course. Fairies hurriedly explained that Kenji had more important things to worry about, so he shouldn't waste his time looking for the ingredient and should leave it to Lily. Lady Gourmet explained that when Kasrina became the champion, this competition became a worldwide event, and so there will be a lot of worthy opponents. And Kenji should realize that his previous cooking contest is nothing compared to this grand event. That's why Kenji must focus as hard as possible with Mina on cooking and maximize his skills. Lily, Jack, and the Wyverns supported Fairies and advised Kenji to go to Mina's place and do his own thing, and they would try to take care of the rest. Kenji realized that he really does have the best team, and they are absolutely right in that this is all their common problem and everyone should mind their own business. Kenji finally admitted that he needed help and asked his friends to be there for him and assist him to achieve victory. An excited farmer asked to try to obtain the S-class monster plant Leviathan for him in order to defeat Kasrina. Lily, Jack, and the Wyvern offered to rely on them and promised to be sure to bring this rare ingredient. Kenji felt a welcome relief and realized that he wasn't alone now. The farmer stated that he would be waiting for his friends with the right ingredient already at the competition. After Lily, Jack, and the Wyvern went in search of the rare Leviathan, Kenji asked Sui, Fairies, and Dora to support him at the contest itself. The boy explained that their support gave him more than just motivation, and having them by his side would greatly increase his chances of winning. All three of course agreed to go along with their favorite farmer to such a demanding contest and promised to give him their full support. Kenji realizes that the only goal his team needs is to win, because they can't do anything else. After Lily's team went on a dangerous hunt for the rare ingredient Leviathan, Kenji began practicing hard every day to prepare different dishes. Preparation for the upcoming cooking competition was entrusted to Mina and Deli Gourmet Fairies. All this time, the young farmer was of course worried about his friends, who for his sake had gone on a deadly dangerous journey, and one could only hope that they would be all right. But still Kenji was positive, because with the help of his friends he was perfectly prepared for the upcoming cooking competition and learned a lot of tricks in cooking. Time flew by very quickly, and finally the decisive day came when he had to leave for the 10th continent. The journey turned out to be very exciting, for it was necessary to cross a huge sea distance. Kenji was surprised at the unusual transportation that looked like a steamship. But unlike the usual ships from his home world, this floating thing was powered by monster stones. Little Dora was well aware of how worried Kenji was about his friends and said that she was personally confident that Lily, Jack, and the Wyvern would be fine. After several days of sea travel, the ship's captain announced the imminent arrival at the port of the continent of Marked. Kenji admitted that he was indeed very worried about Lily's crew, but still had faith in her fighting abilities. That said, the prudent farmer sent reinforcements to Lily's aid. Soon the magic steamer docked at the capital's harbor. There were so many people on the dock that it seemed unrealistic at first glance. But Kenji soon became convinced that there was indeed a huge number of people gathered in this place, and many of them had come just for the cooking contest. The 10th great continent of Marked appeared as a majestic country. The locals were not at all different from the country's visitors and looked very dignified. And the buildings were astonishing in their architectural sophistication and sheer size. Kenji immediately noticed a huge round building that stood out very much from the rest. Kenji and Mina soon found out that this particular magnificent round arena was the venue for the cooking contest. Mina, who had never seen such a huge structure before, admitted to being very excited and anxious. The beautiful girl Lisha acted as the commentator of the competition and welcomed all the guests and participants of the cooking competition. Lisha announced that today is World Cooking Day, as the greatest festival in the whole world is being held. And the dishes that will be presented today will be included in cookbooks and will become widely known recipes. In other words, this culinary festival is entirely dedicated to the worldwide development of cooking. Lisha, in an incredibly loud voice, introduced the chosen chefs from around the world who would pit their incredible culinary skills against each other and wished each contender nothing but victory. The lovely commentator girl then explained that all ingredients from the monster plants would be scrutinized. Also, Craftsmanship and hunting skills would be factored into the final result, and the winner would be chosen based on a combination of achievements. Leisha then introduced the board of judges, which consisted of cooking scientists and celebrity chefs from various countries. The judges indeed turned out to look like very colorful personalities, and no one knew their preferences. All judges were the most important elite of the foodie world, and in this magnificent competition will judge the contestants' 5 top master foodies. Leisha further announced the most important award that the winner of this season will receive. This time a special prize from the previous winner Kasrina is provided, and it is a magnificent kernel of the Tree of Life. Kenji looked admiringly at the item he wanted more than any other. Leisha continued to comment and decided to introduce all the gathered guests of the past contest. Leisha pointed to the beautiful girl sitting on the throne and explained that this was the great sage Kasrina, and she would be the one to fight the team that reached the last round. Leisha then finished colorfully talking about the judges announced the start of the first round of the cooking competition. The commentator introduced the very popular traveling gourmet restaurant of monster plant hunters, Restaurant Rude. The opponent turned out to be a restaurant satisfying the hearts and stomachs of its customers with unusual dishes, Mina's restaurant. The first round was to last for 1 hour, which was the time allotted to prepare the dishes. As soon as the competitors took their place in the kitchen, the beautiful Leisha announced the start of the round. The representatives of the restaurant Dryad started cooking in a very unusual way, and commentator Leisha suggested that maybe these guys have some kind of ritual of their own, because they decided to make a huge fire. Pretty soon a huge table of flames arose, emitting an incredible heat that was stronger than any oven. The tough guys from the Dryad restaurant quickly pushed through a huge piece of meat. The unrestrained Leisha was indeed a wonderful commentator and conveyed every action with emotional screams. Meanwhile, the extraordinary hunter cooks were easily spinning a huge piece of meat in the flames, and it looked very mesmerizing. Leisha decided to quench the curiosity of the onlookers and asked if this was a special meat cooking technique used in the Dryad restaurant. The head of the team explained that the meat was not yet cooked as the residual fat had been extracted, and now the coals had to finish cooking the meat. Leisha then turned her attention to her opponents and announced that Mina's restaurant was also actively slicing meat and monster plants. Mina and Kenji looked to be very skillful cooks and quickly completed their tasks. Kenji had managed to set aside his cooking skills very well and was quick with his knife. An attentive Leisha noticed the minced meat being prepared and wondered if it was going to be some tasty meatballs. Kenji, without revealing the full secret of his dish, explained that it would be more like a hamburger. Then the lovely commentator found out that Mina, the owner of the restaurant, was busy preparing a wonderful salad, which she promised to surprise the judges of this contest. Leisha admitted that she was very surprised because it was the first time she had seen vegetables cut in such an unusual way. Leisha wondered what it would all look like when finished. Meanwhile, the opponents from Dryad restaurant had something incredible going on. Leisha announced as emotionally as possible that a huge block of meat was moving, and the representatives of Team Dryad easily lifted it into the air. Apparently, the strongest representative of Restaurant Dryad easily carried the huge piece of meat to the kitchen table and prepared to cut it. Next, something incredible began to happen. The owner of the restaurant Dryad started slicing the meat with incredible speed, and it was like a fairy of flying petals. Leisha watched with interest and commented on what was happening in the kitchen, and then informed the viewers that the Dryad team had created a real flower garden out of the meat pieces with the help of thinly sliced slices and the freshest eggs. All of this was a manifestation of the unique culinary style of the Rude restaurant, and these contestants had almost finished creating their culinary masterpiece. Kenji, of course, heard Leisha's enthusiastic shouts and began to worry that they might not be able to prepare the dish in the allotted time. Unlike the excited farmer, Mina looked calm and focused and carefully broke the eggs. Kenji was delighted with his partner and decided that they would still make it in time. Kenji encouraged his coworker and said that she was doing a great job. But Mina explained that she was not doing anything unusual and was just doing her usual work in the kitchen. There were 10 minutes left until the end of the round, and this was of course announced by Leisha's anxious voice. Kenji was finishing baking his meat dish while Mina continued to whip the eggs. The rival team from Dryad restaurant was already busy serving the dish, and the formidable guys were slicing the meat with a huge knife. The aroma of fried meat made all the spectators anxious, and those who had not prepared for the competition and came hungry were already suffering from saliva. 10 minutes later, the end of the round was announced. Leisha exclaimed that it was the judges' turn and suggested starting with the hunter team of the Rude restaurant. The dishes presented were a flavorful grizzly steak and a raw fish salad. Both dishes were incredibly beautifully garnished and aesthetically pleasing. The silent and stern judges took turns to begin sampling the magnificent dishes. The commentator Leisha remained silent, and the representatives of the restaurant Rude waited for the decisive answer, although they looked absolutely calm. One of the judges, an old man with a gray beard, said that since the steak was cooked over an open fire, the flavor was very rich, and with each bite, it released more and more flavorful juices. About the salad, the judge said that it did not smell fishy at all, and the intense heat had completely fused all the fat and meat. After all the judges had had a chance to savor the dishes from Dryad restaurant and put their plates away, the lovely commentator introduced the next contestants from Mina's restaurant. All the judges were surprised by the unusual kind of dish prepared and asked how exactly to eat it. Kenji explained a little worriedly that the first thing to do was to simply open the leaves and enjoy what was inside. Such an unusual serving of the dish pleased the judges, and they began to unwrap the leaves with interest. Kenji and Mina were very nervous at this moment, but they tried not to show any signs of nervousness and were as confident as possible. As soon as the judges unwrapped the leaves, Kenji explained that it was a delicious mincemeat of basilisk, grizzly, and killer wolf meat. The 3 types of meat were sliced, mixed, and roasted together. And a great salad comes with mayonnaise and basilisk eggs. The judges said that the different meats complemented each other's flavors perfectly, and the other ingredients also helped enhance this incredible bouquet of flavors. Judging by the faces, this dish was really enjoyed by the judges, and that put Kenji at ease. The judges also noted a wonderful mayonnaise with an unusual flavor. It was prepared with an interesting way of combining different monster plants. Soon after a short discussion, the judges were ready to make a final judgment, and it was immediately announced by Leisha. The representatives of Team Dryad held themselves with dignity without showing any emotion. Kenji felt a lot of excitement, but tried to hold back his emotions, and Mina just started praying at this moment and closed her eyes. After enduring an agonizing pause, the beautiful commentator Leisha announced Mina's restaurant as the winner, and immediately the audience reacted with joyful applause and shouts. Kenji and Mina felt incredibly relieved and didn't even immediately believe such a success. Watching all of this, Sui and Fairies rejoiced, of course. But suddenly unable to withstand the extreme excitement, Kenji felt dizzy and nauseous, and then almost lost consciousness. The young farmer was happy in spite of everything that they had managed to overcome the first round. But there were still 3 more rounds to go, and the main goal remained to make it to the finals. Kenji decided that he had to pull himself together, for he had to win, as little Sui's life depended on it. The next day, the second round of the cooking competition began, and now only half of the contestants were left. Leisha promised the audience a new experience and announced that the battle was getting much fiercer. Then, when all the spectators and competitors had gathered in the arena, a beautiful girl with a microphone announced the start of the second round. Instantly, all the spectators reacted to her announcement with stunned applause. The next opponent for Kenji and Mina was Ryan's restaurant, who was able to win yesterday using only a monster plant and showing incredible skills in cooking. Leisha reintroduced Mina's restaurant and wondered how far they could go after their remarkable victory over Dryad's restaurant. Kenji and Mina were surprised that this time they would be facing a vegetarian. The appearance of the opponent really surprised Kenji, and at first glance there was only one representative of Ryan's team, making his participation even more strange. But then it turned out that along with Mr. Ryan, there was a very real baby present on the team. Kenji's surprise grew many times over, for he had never seen such a thing before. It is then revealed that Mr. Ryan is in fact this infant, and his adult male assistant announced that he was ready to begin the contest. In doing so, the human infant armed himself with a huge knife and spoon. Kenji and Mina decided that such an unusual opponent must be a truly dangerous opponent, even in spite of his appearance. Both teams quickly began to prepare the necessary ingredients and gradually prepare the dishes. Ryan, the infant, appeared to be as good as a grown man at using kitchen appliances, and his assistant was only helping the infant to move around the kitchen. Kenji kept repeating to himself that he should try to win no matter what. At the same time, the young farmer hoped that now very far away, Lily's team was also doing well and they would accomplish their difficult mission. The cooking competition did turn out to be a large-scale event, and the huge arena was fully occupied by spectators, with local speculators rejoicing at the opportunity to make money from the pre-purchased tickets. Meanwhile, on the second great continent of Kokuma, Team Lily found themselves in a very difficult situation. They were among the cold and harsh cliffs where they found the goal of their mission. Lily fought desperately against the huge Leviathan and realized that its rank was not an empty word, and it would be very difficult to defeat such a monster. Gradually losing strength, the girl warrior began to realize that she would probably not be able to fulfill her promise to Kenji. The opponent was indeed very dangerous strong, and despite her experience and abilities, Lily could not cope with the Leviathan. The girl gradually despaired and mentally apologized for not being able to deliver the necessary ingredient for the cooking contest.